Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a pure 12 build for the Transmutation Wizard in Baldur's Gate 3. This subclass is one of the least picked, but they can turn into a blue jay. They also can create the Transmuter Stone, which can give you advantage on Constitution saving throws, or get resistance to an elemental damage type. We'll just be sticking with this class for this video here, so starting off at the very start, we got our choice in Cantrips. Now, a nice combination actually is using Mage Hand and a water bottle. Because in Baldur's Gate 3, you can do a free action, dropping the water bottle, your mage hand can throw it, and then your targets will take double cold or lightning damage. So kind of a cool combination there without even using spell slots, but obviously as we get more, it gets even better. I also recommend having Bone Chill. Now, the reason I recommend Ray of Frost is you can kite enemies around with this because it reduces their movement speed, and Bone Chill stops the target from receiving healing. These both have a long range of 18 meters, which are great, and Ray of Frost is going to be typically our early game option for cantrip damage. Mage Hand's good support. I also want to mention Friends if you're the face of the party, and Minor Illusion brings a lot of value, as well Firebolt if you want to explode stuff, and for a little bit higher total damage. Now, for our spells, I'd recommend grabbing Shield. This will give us a +5 to our armor class as a reaction, and this will save our hide often. Mage Armor is also extremely important so that we can increase our base armor class value to 13 instead of 10, which is huge for a wizard which has the lowest amount of health. I also like to have Find Familiar because you can create a Raven which will draw away an attack for your team, and it can also blind targets, which is nice. Chromatic Orb gives us elemental damage coverage. Magic Missile is guaranteed damage and actually a really amazing spell. And Thunderwave gives us a pushback, so we'll round it out with that. Now our ability score spread. If you're going to have the Hag's Hair, which is an item you can get, take 17 intelligence. Otherwise, I'd recommend going with a stat spread of something like this. I typically prefer, even though the wizard has low health, to go a little bit higher in our dexterity, just so that we can potentially go first in combat, as the initiative die in Baldur's Gate 3 is only a D4, so 1 point extra from dexterity is actually a pretty massive one. But you can go with the higher constitution, but we do want to have 16 intelligence. So we'll roll with this. And Insight and Arcana are good for our skill proficiencies. And the Transmutation, your innate fascination with the structure of things, grants you an incredible power over crude matter and its manipulation. Learning transmutation spells will cost half, and you get the Experimental Alchemy, which allows you to brew 2 alchemical solutions instead of 1. There's a whole alchemy system in Baldur's Gate 3. I may actually do a full video on that because it's quite in depth. This will allow you to actually get 2 of these per usage, which is obviously really good. You can have someone at your camp just be a Transmutation Wizard and be their your camp alchemist. It's a good idea. We're also going to take for spells here at this level. False Life kind of fits our theming a bit. It's extra health. It's nice if you want it. Ice Knife is also a spell you can cast if you get silenced, which is great. Grease is another good one that can make enemies slip and fall prone, but we want to have these spells prepared here, giving us armor, a summon, a damage option, and a pushback utility option with Thunderwave. Level 3 gives us some of the best spells that we're going to use throughout the entire game. Hold Person and Scorching Ray. Hold Person can give us critical hits. Scorching Ray can critically hit, so if we have someone on one turn hit with Hold Person, the next turn we can blast away with that, or if we have haste on ourselves, we can do it all in the same turn. I would recommend having Scorching Ray, and then at next level prepared the Hold Person. Scorching Ray is just a really good damage option. We also get another cantrip here, so we can take Firebolt as it's going to explode stuff for us, which is really nice. Minor Illusion is also good because later on we can use this to group enemies up before we drop things like Fireball on them. Next, we got a couple more spells. We're going to go with Misty Step for the teleportation. It's really nice. I want to mention Clouded Daggers. If you like this spell, it's good because it's guaranteed damage on the enemy. They always take it when they walk through it. Crown of Madness can be pretty useful as well as kind of an enchantment, make the enemy attack someone else. We're going to mirror image here. I also do want to quickly mention the transmutation spell list because, yeah, the wizard does not get access to many of these. They get like Longstrider and Magic Weapon, which is super useful on this wizard. You can see why this is not a super popular class, but it does have haste, so I guess that is something. Although sorcerers do haste better because they can apply it to 2 people. But I digress, just want to kind of give my rant on transmutation being not having great spells. It's obviously a construct of D&D and how it translates over to a video game, but I can see why this class is not as popular as some of the others. Next up, we got our first feat. I think, again, with the D4 initiative in Baldur's Gate 3, Alert for a +5 means we're going first pretty much guaranteed after this point. As a wizard that's squishy, this is good. We need to position ourselves. We can also use this to reduce a target that could potentially take us out. I also like an ability score improvement on intelligence if you don't want that. And even Warcaster is a good feat for a wizard, which will give you advantage on saving throws. Pretty good. We also, at level 5, get access to some of our best spells. Counterspell. Incredible. Uses a reaction, can stop a spell from being cast. You may think that Lightning Bolt and Fireball are the best level 3 spells, but Counterspell in the run of a game is likely going to be your most impactful spell, but these are very good spells as well. I slightly prefer going with the Lightning Bolt here because, again, you can have your Mage Hand set up for double damage, and it's a straight line that hits a lot of targets. It has a 30-meter range. It's pretty crazy. Fireball, on the other hand, is good too. You can use either of these. They're both pretty powerful. Now, I would recommend going with Lightning Bolt and having these prepared. At this point, Find Familiar you could remove, or Thunderwave if you find you're not using it as much. When you increase our intelligence later on, we'll be able to prepare another spell. Level 6 gives us the Transmuter Stone. Store some of your transmutation magic in a small stone. The creature carrying the stone gets the benefit of your choice. We do have to be in the party to be able to get this. Previously, you could actually just create the stone and give it to someone, give them advantage on Constitution saving throws. It was crazy. But now you just have to have them in the party. That's still good. We can actually, if you have a sorcerer, we can have a Amulet of Greater Health, which will give us the advantage on Constitution saving throws. We can give the stone to our sorcerer to also give them that ability as well. And we want the health because, again, we're a squishy little wizard. Next up, we got our level 3 spells. I'd recommend grabbing Fireball. Glyph of Warding is similar. It does any elemental damage type that you choose. And since it's a transmutation spell, haste, we're taking it. And we're going to prepare Fireball. It's just a good spell to have. Sometimes there's enemies grouped up in a circle and you just, go into a room. I cast Fireball. Next is actually a spell that I think is extremely powerful, especially in Baldur's Gate 3, Ice Storm. This creates a surface for 2 turns. It's pretty crazy because crowd control in this game, this is one of the best options that does not require a spell slot or a concentration. I would also pair this with Conjure Minor Elemental. We can create ice surfaces using this as well. They go together very well. And we're going to prepare Ice Storm. It's just a spell that you want to always have. Has a large radius, and you can, again, create difficult terrain using it. Level 8 here, we get our second feed, so we can prepare another spell. I also recommend grabbing Confusion and Wall of Fire. You cannot go, if you want to go with one of the others, Wall of Fire is nice because sometimes there's just a place where it's just good to put this in a straight line because multiple enemies will end up getting hit by it. I also want to mention Everett's Black Tentacles is a pretty solid spell. And even going with something like Greater Invisibility for just turning invisible. It's great for supporting your team, especially if you have a ranger. They can have Pass Without Trace. You can put Greater Invisibility. They're pretty stealthed up. We're going to go with Confusion and Wall of Fire. Confusion, not everyone loves, so if you don't want to use it, you don't have to prepare it. But it's, I think, actually kind of an underrated spell in certain regards because of its large activation radius. And sometimes you'll just end up getting them to attack each other. So next, we're going to go with our Intelligence increase. Just want to have better spell casting at this point. I will note that, again, Warcaster can be good if you wanted to use the Transmuter Stone for like fire and then have just built-in Constitution saving throw proficiency. But using the Transmuter Stone for that is perfectly fine. And we'll go with the Intelligence-based increase. And at level 9 here, we get level 5 spells. This is great because we have one of the best 1-2 punch combos in the game now with Cone of Cold and Conjure Elemental. The Water Elemental, the level 5 version, not the Myrmidon, its punch attack will set up Chilled, which makes the target take double cold damage, meaning that 8d8 is doubled. It's pretty absurd. I would recommend preparing both of these spells here so we can go all in on our cold-based casting with the ice methods, the water elemental, like Cone of Cold. It becomes extremely powerful at this point, and we can also resist fire or cold damage. Level 10 gives us a really funny, and I love it, Shape Changer. Turns you into a blue jay and you can fly. This is useful outside of combat. It's also useful if you want to look like a blue jay, so we like it. For the cantrip we'll be taking here, Shocking Grasp is nice, give yourself advantage and stop the target from having a reaction. It's a good get out of jail free card. We'll also then take Hold Monster and Dominate Person. Not always the best spell, but it can be sometimes funny. You don't have to use it. There's just nothing else here that we're really dying to have. I'd recommend actually preparing Misty Step at this level. Hold Monster can be extremely powerful in specific fights, so I just want to mention that as well. Next up, level 11. This is where we get our biggest power spike because Otilukes Freezing Spehere is only available to the wizard, and Chain Lightning, obviously a very powerful spell. And they actually fixed Wall of Ice in patch 8 to properly damage enemies with that additional 10d6 of cold damage. But in all honesty, the huge radius that you get with Otilukes Freezing Spehere is so good. It's a difficult terrain as well. I think it's one of the best spells in the game. It can hit more targets than things like Chain Lightning, although Chain Lightning does insane amounts of damage as well. We're going to prepare Otilukes Freezing Spehere, and at next level we can prepare either Chain Lightning or Globe of Invulnerability, which I think has ended up being the best spell here. And I like to just grab Wall of Ice because we can learn it, and no one else can, so we may as well learn it. I do think this is the best stat spread. You can take off Thunderwave and put on Chain Lightning if you prefer, and we can actually just go with an increase for Intelligence here to be able to prepare it if you want it. And another choice is Lucky. Silly enough, it doesn't use a reaction. You can get advantage on a saving throw or make an enemy re-roll their saving throw. It protects us, and the wizard kind of needs everything it can get in terms of survivability. Tough can also give us more health than the constitution increase, although it's probably better to get the con save bonus from that, so you could boost up our constitution. I'm going to mention Warcaster again. If you don't want to use this Transmuter Stone, you want to have it as like a fire or like poison or whatever elemental damage type. But I do think the stone for constitution saves is the best. So we're going to go with the intelligence increase. And that outfit mod is the added Ataraxia dress mod here by Obscenity. Now for base game gear, actually kind of funny, but the best equipment that we can get in the early game is, silly enough, the Protecty Sparks Wall. We want to use the Jolt Shooter if you can get it, and this will give us a bonus to our spell save DC and a bonus to our armor class. It's really the best clothing option we got in the early game. Make sure you do have mage armor equipped because that does make a big difference. But as we progress to later sections of the game, we'll eventually then get the Robe of the Weave, which is the best choice here for spellcasting. I do also want to quickly mention the Helldusk armor is a good choice too, because this just gives us the highest possible armor class, but I'm going to roll out with the Robe of the Weave here. Now, since we're got a lot of cold spells, the Winter's Clutches here are a great choice because we'll inflict Encrusted with Frost, which is a condition that'll proc the Boots of Stormy Clamor, and we can get these early on in the game. I would also recommend the Gloves of the Belligerent Skies. It's a good weapon, good set of gloves here that will enhance our Thunder, Lightning, damage spells. So that's another option if you want to go with it. We could also Crater Flesh Gloves late game if you want to add onto the Scorching Ray crits. But I think that the Winter's Clutches ends up being the most fun here. And since we're applying Reverberation, this means that we could use the Thunderskin Cloak. So if someone attacks us and hits us, and they have Reverberation, which they likely will from getting close to us, they will end up becoming dazed, which means that we can land our wisdom saves, so things like Hold Person, easier. It's pretty cool. Now, we have ice. We also have fire. The Hat of Fire acuity works really well here because we can just cast a Scorching Ray, a level 4 one, and with that, we'll get a plus 10 to our spell save DC, and then we can land our spells like Otilukes Freezing Sphere and make sure that everyone is slipping on it. So this is really, really good and kind of essential to this. I'll show you how you want to set up in combat. We also have the Snowburst Ring, which will create ice surfaces below people. I think it's really fun and powerful. Ring of Protection is a good choice as well. Ring of Free Action lets you move around freely, which is pretty powerful. And in the early game, Crusher's Ring gives you some extra movement speed, which I think helps the wizard quite a bit with just their survivability. Amulet of Greater Health will give you more constitution. And the Hellrider Longbow gives us a +3 to our initiative. We don't move last, ever. We're moving first pretty much every time in combat. I also have Viconia's Walking Fortress and the Amulet of Greater Health, but there's a lot of other options early game, like the Periapta Wound Closure, so that you maximum heal yourself every time you get healed, which is very useful sustainable-wise. You can get additional level 2 spell slot, shoot an additional magic missile with a Psych Spark, so there's a lot of amulet options. I also like the Staff of Spell Power again, because it's got the Arcane Battery, which gives us the free Water Elemental. We don't want to use the Myrmidon, we want the Water Elemental in particular, because their main punching attack comes with a special Water Slam there, which creates water and creates shield on the target. Now, we can also turn into a Blue Jay. Now, we only have 5 health while in our Blue Jay form, but we can use it to fly around. It's more so for scouting. It's not really good by any means. And funny enough, I really like the Blue Jay, so I use this. I use this actually in one of my mods. I made it's called the Heartsworn Knight Fighter. I have a pink and red version of the Blue Jay. Also go Toronto Blue Jays. Now, you can only use it for 5 turns, but you can use it really whenever you want, so kind of cool. Now, I would also recommend sometimes bringing in the minor elementals there, because that can be pretty useful. Another thing that's weird to notice is that you actually, if you're using the Amulet of Greater Health and then use this, and you turn back into human, you lose the extra health that you get from using that item, so that's interesting. But the Transmuter Stone, so since we do have the Amulet of Greater Health here, we have other options. So you can get the Dark Vision. Now, one thing I do want to actually mention here is this is not truthful. It says 18 meters. It's actually only 12 meters in the dark. We also have the Constitution here because proficiency in Constitution saving throws mentioned, movement speed increases, and then all the elemental damage types that we want. Since I got an advantage, I think the extra movement speed is actually really nice. Again, a wizard that can move around more is a wizard that lives longer. And after we do use that spell casting from the staff, we can then use Marka Heshker as our staff. This is the best staff in the game, obviously. Great for spellcasters. Adding lightning charges with the Bolts of Doom adds a ton of extra damage because we can get those on top of things like Scorching Ray, which does absurd amounts of damage. So as mentioned, we want to get our cold gear to proc, but first, what we got to do is get our spell save DC up high. So I'd recommend going away with a Scorching Ray here, and you can spread them out between targets that you know you're going to be able to reduce. So I'm going to blast away there, and boom, That was enough to apply some reverberation, some extra lightning charges, and we took out that target there. But most importantly, with our hat, the hat of fire acuity, we now have a +10 to our arcane acuity, so our spell save DC is 29. Good luck to the enemy trying to roll a 29 to succeed. We're very likely to land a lot of our spells now, so then we can go ahead with something like an Otilukes Freezing Sphere, and even better, a free Otilukes Freezing Sphere from our staff. Now, I'd recommend dropping this somewhere where the enemy is likely to be running towards, because then it creates a huge ice surface, and you can see there, it called in more enemies, but 4 of them ended up slipping and falling. And our water elemental is here to then do its main punching attack, and what it can do is, again, set up, if it lands its attack, is the target will then become chilled, so they take double cold damage, which is amazing. And don't use your reaction for anything other than a counter spell. If you have a shield, don't use the bash. I would recommend just saving it, unless it's like the last enemy in the load order and you know they don't have any spells that could really mess up your run. Now here's an opportunity where if we had the Evocation Wizard, we could just danger close Fireball. Unfortunately, I do have to position myself to be able to try and hit targets with this. Yeah, we can't really do a Lightning Bolt here, but we do have a free casting of Chain Lightning. And we did lose a little bit of our arcane acuity, but that took out 4 targets in one. So that was worth the juice, I guess. And then we can actually go blast away here to hit the final 2 targets, potentially, if I can line this up correctly. The thing is, Lightning Bolt's typically going to be one of our best options for damage, just because they can usually hit multiple enemies just like that if you move around. And that's why I recommended having some extra movement items, but that was pretty quick combat, because getting Otilukes Freezing Sphere is just such a powerful spell with the crowd control that it brings, the huge area of effect, the surfaces. It's just an amazing spell all around. So let me know your thoughts on the Transmutation Wizard in Baldur's Gate 3. Hope you guys all have a great day, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.